What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about XPR today. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it. Okay, here we are at about half a cent right now, $0.0055. 8 hours, 56 minutes left in the day. Having a little bit of a green day so far, up 4%, positive reaction overall from the lows. If we take a high to low here and just see how we're progressing through this fib range, you can see you went all the way up above the golden ratio. That was a nice look. Kind of odd that you came back down, but at the same time, generally speaking, whenever you rip through the golden ratio and you find resistance at the 786, you do look to find support at the 0.5 or the 382 or even the 236. Being that you found resistance just below the 786, I mean, you found support kind of in a similar area. That might equate to that, so I think it's fine. It's a little weird, but it's fine. You're closing above the golden ratio, which is nice. That's a good thing. Finding support at previous areas where you found resistance. You look like right now what you're doing is you're loading up for that next move higher, right? And this is on a daily basis. You've been here for about 4 days now. This is your 4th day. Or at least 3 days, right? It could be another 3 days. It could, consolidate to the downside even. You bounce off the golden ratio, and then sometime going into the end of the month, that's whenever you break out higher. It could be today that you break out higher. It's hard to say, but certainly whenever you do break out higher, the next area to watch is 0.00684, and when you get a day to close above that, when you get a day to close above this 886, likely, unless you have some kind of weird fake out scenario, weird fib stuff going on, which could happen, likely that would enable you to see 1.18 cents to 1.94 cents or higher targets than that. You're at half a cent now. So these are decent gains that you would be able to see in a very short amount of time. And of course, I think you're going higher than that by the end of March, but in a very short amount of time relative to whenever you break out of this 886. I'm talking about, man, you break above this 886 this week, like if today you closed above 0.0068439, if you closed above that 886 today, by the end of next week you'd be worth at least double or triple what you're worth now, right? And going into the end of March, you'd be worth a lot more. At least I would think so. You guys hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't, if you're enjoying the video so far. Let's see, looking at the daily RSI here, you've also got a very nice pronounced uptrend of the daily RSI. Now, I love trends like this. Trends like this are nice. They're momentary. They're very fierce to the downside. But, and you can see that probably here in this, right? You started to trend down here. You still moved up in the price. But overall, whenever you started to trend down here in the RSI, that's when you started to consolidate and roll over a little bit. Once you broke that trend, that meant you were breaking the consolidation phase and going onward, right? That's nice. But notice this trend here, how this was a lot longer, a lot more sustained. If you look at the downtrend here in the RSI, the lines that you have are a lot longer, a lot more sustained. You know what I mean? Like it's a longer trend, it's a larger trend. Then you broke out of it over here, sure, but all I'm trying to say by that is that longer trend provided a longer move down on a day-to-day basis. Here on the daily aspect, we have been in a rather long uptrend ourselves right here, right? Continuing to find support on this area as you've just recently done and had some nice, I just keep doing that, having a nice bounce, looking like you want to go to the overbought zone, and I think you do. The last time that you bounced off of this line and went to the overbought zone, this was the move you saw. The time before that, that was the move you saw. So gauging both of these moves from a low to a high, from not from the absolute low, but from when like the move began, low to a high. It's not a straight line, but the distance between the low and the high is accurate. If we ran that here and acted like this was the beginning of the next move, that could call for targets that are up above 2 cents. And then if we moved as much as this one, that could call for targets that are just at the current highs. And I want to offer a third perspective that we could see a larger move breaking out of this, because again, this is the relative strength index, right? And I know we all understand that those are words: relative strength index. We all speak English, or if you don't speak English, at least some English, right? Or at least you have a translator on here that can understand what the words relative strength and index mean. But what it means together, you have to think about it. Or maybe you don't have to think about it. I don't know. I have to think about it. It's reading comes in from the strength of the price relative to the other price that has seen recently, right? So in a sense, this move hitting a reading that was technically stronger in the RSI here, right? This was just a little bit higher, but very equivalent, but a little bit higher, provided the same reading as this move, yet this move was dramatically bigger. Now, why is that? That's because the relative strength index, the strength of the relative candles around it, were bigger here on this peak than they were here on these little moves here. So of course, to get to the same readings, you would see a lesser move. To get to the same readings, you'd see a bigger move. Or you know what I mean? If things are bigger, this is more volatile. These candles are bigger. They're not even that big, but compared to this, they're bigger. And then the candles preceding this are bigger too, right? It just if the moves are bigger, to get to the same areas of strength, they're going to have to provide bigger moves. I hope that makes sense. So here, with how big your candles have been lately, these are some pretty big candles, rough to your recent history here, or according to your recent history there. If we see even similar areas, we don't even have to see a higher high in the RSI. If we do, great. But I mean, both of those times you went to a 94. I mean, I don't think you're going to do that. Let's say you go to a 90. Let's say you only go to an 84, an 85, something like that. You see a lower high. You're still probably going to get a move that's very comparable to this, if not bigger than this, right? Because again, your candles here are a little bit bigger. I would assume that if we're going to run with the idea that we have a comparable move to this move here, if not bigger, right? If not maybe a little bit smaller, then something around 2 cents would be a good target to have, I think. That would be a good target, right? Something around 2 cents or higher. From a high to a low, that that puts you just above your 1618. So likely, if you get above your golden ratio, if you see a move that's of the same magnitude, that by default, to me at least, would tell me that you are ready for a higher move. I would think something that's at about 2.8 to 3.3 cents would be the case. Now, this isn't the percentage you'd grow from the current price. That's just from the low, right? From the current price, that would be a 500% growth to potentially a 400% growth, something like that. And at a minimum, I think the golden ratio is a good minimum. So that's 262, 255. All of these targets put you at above average expectations for what I see the average altcoin doing. So that's good. That's encouraging. You want to find winners. You want things that outperform, not underperform, at least perform on average, right? This to the 1618, the minimum target, this is slightly average, but it is a little bit above average. If you fall short, if this move is smaller than the last move, then there is an argument to be made that you make about an average move, and there's nothing to be ashamed of that, right? You've done above average things recently, you can take the day off and get an average day in. It's okay. But likely, in my opinion, you go to about 2.8 cents, which again is about 400% away from here, 2.859 cents to about 3.365 cents, somewhere in there, which is about a 500% growth from here. Of course, you could go higher. You could take that route too. The higher we get, the less likely it goes, though, in my head. You know, a 9x from here, sitting at about 4.96 cents. I suppose that's possible by the end of March. Even 8.14 cents, I accept as a possibility by the end of March. I just think as we get up this ladder, it's a little bit less likely. The most likely scenario that I see is that we'll land between 2.8 to 3.3 cents, somewhere in there. And then I would say it's equally as likely that we stop at 4.9 cents as it is that we would stop below 2 cents. I think that we will break 2 cents. To me, it's just as likely that we'd break, that we would hit 5 cents as it would be that we stop below 2 cents, right? Then that doesn't mean that I think they're both likely. That just means I think this area is more likely. These areas are still somewhat likely, but less likely than this area. I hope that makes sense. That's just how my brain works. The daily RSI looking pretty phenomenal, looking like it does want to get to that overbought zone regardless of the reading. We're in stronger areas now, so any kind of reading in this overbought zone will likely produce a move that sends us around, if not above 2 cents. If we look at the 4-hour time frame to judge what the day-to-day stuff is doing, or today's stuff is going to do, rejecting the overbought zone here, bouncing in the 50, not a bad look. I want to look at something with some volume. KuCoin? Let's do KuCoin. KuCoin's probably got more volume than MEXC, right? You would think. Let me see. I'm not 100% sure on that. Let's see. What's this high spike in volume? That's 260 million. KuCoin, 258. Wow, it's actually comparable. That's crazy. I like KuCoin more anyway, so yeah, KuCoin's a good one. 0.00546 now, volume coming in, but not a whole lot here. Yeah, you probably moved down a little bit. Okay, I can see that. Rejecting your overbought zone. You should have gone up here. You should have gone up here. And when you should have gone up and you don't, that tends to mean that you're going to go down, right? If you should have gone down but you don't, you're probably going to go up. So a little bit of, it's not bearish divergence, but kind of, because this is more of like a double top on a closing aspect, and that is a noticeable lower high. So kind of it's like bearish divergence. With that rejection off the overbought zone, that really sells it for me. So, you know, the next 47 minutes, 21 seconds, if you can rip and close up above this whole range, I'll be proven wrong. But unless that happens, if you can get this in the overbought zone, I'll be proven wrong. But unless that happens, you probably are going lower. So just looking at the price for references of support, you found support here. at about half a cent, just below half a cent at 0.0049 right there. On a wicking aspect, you went to this low here, which also kind of comes in line with support here, resistance there, support there, a little bit of resistance in this area. That's at about 0.00464. You could find support there. If we take a relative low to the relative high fib, your 382 comes in line very well with this white line, just a little bit below it, so you could go there. It's very common with the 382 to actually go just below it, so do anticipate prices that are below half a cent, 0.005. Do anticipate prices that are below 0.0049, even below 0.0048. I would not anticipate prices that are lower than 0.00366 personally. I don't even think we get down there, but that's the lowest that I would anticipate personally. A higher low is what I would expect at a minimum nonetheless. But I do like something around this area here. There seems to be a lot of support at about 0.005. Hold on. 0.005, 0.005252 to 0.0048269, somewhere in this area and likely below the yellow line but above the green line is what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking you'll find support in. So from here, what I'm expecting, and what I'm expecting does not have to happen, right? What I'm expecting is anything from an above 10% move to at a maximum a 17% move. Of course, you could go to your golden ratio. That'd provide an over 20% move to a 25% move. You could go all the way to your 886, and that would be over a 30% move down. And if you go lower, that could happen too, but I doubt it. Right? We can go from there if I'm wrong. But even if I'm right here, that's great, cool. You'll bounce and you'll find support. Even if I'm wrong and we go down to this area that we're talking about, cool, whatever. It's fine. I think that we are going to recover, and I think that we will break out higher. What you're doing here is, whoops, not there, but what you're doing here on your price scale, in your consolidation phase, it seems to be productive, at least to me. Right? You are gaining volume here. It's lower levels of volume than you had back here, but relative to your low consolidation points, when you started moving up, you did start gaining volume. So I think there is interest in this thing to go to the upside. Where did you find support here? Low to high. I mean, that was right at your 382, bro. That's perfect. This is good looks, right? What you don't want to do is go below this low. If you go below this low, then we'll have to talk about the potential of even going down here, right? So don't go below that low there. And I don't think you will. As long as you don't, this is a really good productive look, and that signals to me that you will in fact go higher to those targets that we were talking about before. So a little bit downside for today, maybe even for tomorrow. But then by the end of this week, I think that we'll turn things around. Certainly by the end of the month, I think that we'll be turning things around. If we're not at new all-time highs by the end of the month, I would expect that we are at least near them. Going into March, we'll be breaking out to new highs, seeing targets that are around 2 cents at a minimum to, what was it, 5 cents at a maximum. There's potential to go higher, of course, but that's the given target area that I'm expecting personally. So that's all I got for you guys. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all for being here. Take it easy and be breezy. All right, bye-bye.